Today, we are going to be talking about what we refer to as the court case. And that is when you and your partner or your child or your teammate are taking each other and just going at it against each other as if the two of you are lawyers trying to prove that one of you is right and one of you is wrong. We're going to dive into the damage that was created in the first 30 years of Dr. Glenn and Phyllis's relationship because of the courtroom that is now still present today, and how you can stop that from happening, and the sooner the better. So that is where we are headed today, and welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions to take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tara Wages, and joining me is a marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis. And together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Hello, world.
Hi, friends. Wow, the weather here is amazing. I hope it is where you are. Spring is all around us. Matter of fact, today, Glenn and I were driving and we were saying green. We live in an area where the green, all the different shades, but green is everywhere right now here in rural Tennessee, I guess you would say. And it's beautiful. Just driving from our house over to Tira's, where the studio is. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Green is everywhere.
Yeah.
So
nice.
hello, welcome. Glad you are here for sure. And, we were talking today, just kind of trying to wrap our minds around what we're doing and the direction we're going in, and kind of came back around to the court case, like the idea. And I know we lived there for so long, just wanting to figure out who's right and who is wrong. And felt like that was the answer. Like that's how that's just marriage. You're always trying to figure out who's right, who's wrong. And after many decades of that, no, that is not what's happening, because we experience life so differently. And we were just talking about this week, that when Glenn and I are out walking, he notices all the cracks, which is a pain experience for him. It's a fear experience for him. I don't notice cracks. And so we were walking beside each other, and then Glenn will veer off. And all of a sudden I notice he's way over there. And then I'll look down, because then at this point I do know what's happening when he goes way over there. But it's like, wow, we are in the same moment experiencing life very differently. And that happens so often in our marriages, where we don't realize the other person's experience can be very different than our own experience.
Yeah, and I would say that, we said in a lot of sessions with couples together, I think it's probably not 100%, but dang near, it's way up in the 90% of couples, when they come in our first session together, they're all about the court case. She's trying to prove that her point is correct and that he's wrong, and it's vice versa. He's trying to do the same thing. And I'd be curious about that. I don't know if we've ever sat with a couple the first time they sat together where they were just present with each other and, being safe. Is that fair?
Yeah. And, even a term that I think and I love it, because I think you kind of came up with the idea of who's winning,
Right. Yeah.
because I feel like I'm always losing. And we hear that with couples, like, or even the statement, I feel like I'm always wrong. And I know that for many years, that's definitely how I felt. And I would verbalize that, like, it's always me. And I, even this week, we were talking about something, and I think I expressed to you that I had missed it with you. And then I mentioned the guilt and the shame with that. And it kind of goes back, though, I think for me emotionally, that idea of, it's always me. It's always, I'm always the one. And because you were saying that even with the guilt, there's not joy. Like, the guilt is the messenger. Like, I missed it. I could have done that better. So then the guilt is the messenger, which in a sense should lead to joy, that, I can do this better next time. But I often don't get to the joy. And I think it's that idea of feeling that, oh, I'm always the one that's wrong, or I'm always losing. But even speak to that, because I love the way you go further down that road when someone says, well, I'm always losing in this fight.
Yeah, and the side note about that is most couples that we see, both of them are saying that. Both of them have the same experience. I'm always wrong, she's right, and she's saying, I'm always wrong, he thinks he's right. So and that's what has stood out to us over the years. Like, wait, you both experience the other one saying you're wrong, I'm right, and they're both experiencing that. But our goal, I mean, and I'm convinced that the point of the core emotions is to help us become the best version of ourselves, to take care of us, to guide us, direct us, protect us, and help us to connect. And that's the whole joy piece, the joy angle. It's like, oh, well, okay, if I can shift this behavior that's so detrimental for you, so detrimental for us, then we will live better together, and I won't bring you nearly as much pain as I did yesterday, last week, last year, and so life just gets better.
I think a part of it for me is that we put so much weight on the misses. It's like whenever we miss with our partner, or we miss in life, we just put so much weight on that moment as if we're not allowed to miss. We're not human. We're supposed to function as robots. So if we miss, it just weighs a ton. And so one, we are beating ourselves up in that. And then two, we are feeling attacked, whether our partner is actually attacking us or not. Yeah. But now they are treating us as if they have never missed. And then that's where it turns into a war. It's like neither of us are winning at all. We're constantly going to lose with each other if we don't give each other space to miss. And I think I mentioned this on a recent episode. A realization that I had was that Wes's intentions are to literally never hurt me. Never. It is not his goal to hurt me. Does that mean he hurts me though at times? Yeah, he's hurt me. But if I can realize and hear him out when he misses, instead of putting him up on the courtroom and nailing into him every single thing that he has done wrong, then it gives him not only space to be a human, but it gives me space to be a human, because I'm probably going to miss tomorrow. And so absolutely. When we can process that guilt of when we miss and let that guilt weigh about 1 pound to 2 pounds versus that guilt weighing 500 pounds in our relationship, it gives us both the freedom and the space to hear each other out and space to be a human and know that we love each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in so many of our communities, and certainly faith-based, but otherwise as well, that there's such a push, such a resistance to guilt, to shame, to pain, to fear, whatever. And the more, and I don't even quite mean this the way it sounds, but the more that we lighten the view of the experience, that I felt guilt, dang, I missed on that, shoot, that was a big miss. And then we're just rolling on, and we literally process it in 6 seconds, 8 seconds. And, in our discussion the other day, just that guilt feels so condemning for you. I forget what word we used. But just that, at one point you said something about you feel like an idiot. Is that right? I think,
yeah, that's the word.
And, that condemnation that you feel guilt, therefore you are whatever, an idiot, you're damned, you're evil, as opposed to just going, oh, yeah, wow, I missed on that. And I think as we level up more and more as connection coders, we get better at that, so that we are able to process it in 10 seconds that I can miss something. I can miss something with you literally with good intentions, literally with good effort, and I thought I nailed it. And, well, no, I just missed the fact that would actually be a pain experience for you.
Well, maybe we could circle back around even for what happens for you, because like whatever day this happened, over the phone, it was I missed it. I wasn't there for you when you needed me to be there. And what was interesting is that I think you heard that. I wasn't sure if it had, been received as needed. So then I was going to change my plans and come home early And you were like, please don't. Like that wasn't what you needed. That wasn't what, And so then I went ahead and stayed where I was. And then we met for dinner later and had a great time. But then the next morning, you revisited it. We did the core emotion wheel, an issue specific wheel. It was though the pain had not let itself out of your body. Like the pain of the miss the day before was still there. And so it wasn't, what was happening for you, or where is the miss in that where it's not going where it should in just seconds?
Well, there wasn't the painless process great as far as the initial occurrence. What always is my struggle is what happens after in our interaction, where then it gets complicated and thick. And I said to you then that I don't know whether you're just acquiescing, because we've done that before many times. We've had that pattern over the years that you just kind of give up and acquiesce and go, okay, fine, you're right, I'm wrong, which we established. Again, it was vice versa as well, but we did that a lot of times. And then I just get lost and I feel fear that you're not genuinely there. So I just get confused because I'm not sure what's happening for you.
Well, I love that we're bringing this up because I don't think our story is unique. I think that, we've been married 40 years and had many, many years of pain and disconnect and hurt and, putting it all into one word, it would be called trauma. So now 40 years in, because Tara, what you were just saying is almost like that reminder of Wes really loves you. And did the misses need to feel so big? And does the guilt need to feel so like, instead of, I feel, whatever, 2 feet of guilt. No. You need to feel 30 feet of guilt.
Right.
And I think that I think because of our past, right? It's like it plays into the present.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's true for a lot of our listeners, where you're like, yeah, but it doesn't, like, I so believe we both do, Tara, you do, in the tools of the connection codes.
Right.
Like, it's incredible when you're able to just be able to say, ooh, I missed it. I feel guilt that I wasn't there for you. And to know that can both just wash through and release out. But we all have histories, right?
Totally.
I have a history with Glenn. And I would say probably he's the number one person in my life that I have the most history with of pain. And so it comes back up. And babe, you just said, can you repeat that? That when I say I missed it, for you, often you're questioning, or is she just acquiescing, or is it genuine? Would you say that's about how you experience that?
Yeah, because I get lost. I'm just not sure what's happening.
Yeah.
Because of past pain.
Correct. Past pain and past patterns. And so I don't quite know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so it's not really releasing. It's almost like the words don't bring, and even doing the wheel, it's like it didn't quite, I would say, get it there for you or for us. Like you were still wondering and questioning, and it's like we bring in so much weight of the past that one incident gets lost. Like, I think you just even said the words, I feel lost in it. And I again, just being able to talk about it so other listeners can go, oh gosh, thank you. That's where we get to too often with the wheel, where it just feels like we're going back in time and bringing this truckload of stuff to the table at the same time. And there's a lot of pain for us, especially when we bring a truckload, because our past is so painful.
Right. Yeah. I also had the thought after that is it feels a different weight as well, depending on if you're partner can even recognize their own guilt. You know, if you're both equally processing together, if when you're coming and you're saying, oh, I have guilt about this, how is it received? Is it a safe space for you to share your guilt over something or your miss? And that is where we take it to the courtroom. And if you've spent 30 years of y'all taking it to the courtroom, and then now for people listening, if they're spending this time taking it always to the courtroom, well, you're going to continue to have your guilt weigh hundreds of pounds. Even into the future, once you get on the other side, you're going to be bringing it in by the truckload, as you're saying. So it's always going to feel like we're going to court every single time one of us is missing. If you cannot create safe space for each other, the earlier, the better. And so I think that is a really, really good point. And I would also be curious if personality types would play a role into how it feels. Sure. Because I'm at a point now with Wes where when I miss with him over most things, we can miss with each other. He can miss with me, again, over most things, and we can fly through it pretty quickly. But as y'all witnessed earlier, I'm with y'all, and we were having a technical issue as you were going to be guests on another person's podcast. And the guilt for me that it wasn't working correctly, even though it wasn't my fault, even though I had done everything and it sounded great on our end, it felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I was cussing because I was just overwhelmed by guilt that there's a woman on the other end and I'm messing things up for her is what it felt like. And so it would be interesting, even in different relationships, how our guilt feels and how we process it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fascinated. I was listening to a podcast yesterday about a guy who had a very severe event. He got crushed. His head got crushed by some stuff. And just it changed his sensory overload. So now, even immediately, he gets taken to the hospital, and everything, every voice, every light was magnified.
Wow.
And he and initially wasn't even able to speak for several days, but then he finally said, "Would you stop screaming?" And of course the doctors are like, "What? Who's screaming?" Well, for whatever reason, his brain got altered so that a regular tone of voice was screaming. A whisper was too loud. You know, the lights are these blaring, glaring spotlights, and of course they're just regular lights. So every human is unique, and every human experiences things their particular way. So the same would be true with emotional experiences, that this individual feels hurt by his partner at this level, and basically the exact same thing could happen for another couple. And that guy didn't even notice. You know, he doesn't pay any attention at all, and didn't even notice that it was a quote-unquote hurtful thing. Well, it wasn't a hurtful thing because he didn't experience hurt in it. But this other guy, his friend, did experience hurt just because they're that different. So I think that happens all the time. Again, whether it's guilt, shame. I get hit with shame far more than I think. We don't have data on this, but I think far more than the average human does. Well, I'm not trying to do that. That's just what happens. For me, my son, who he and I are very close, he's able to do a lot of things and not feel shame. I watch him sometimes. I'm like, wait, you didn't get flooded with shame? He's like, what? How would shame possibly be connected to that? I'm like, okay. Because if I had done that thing that he did, I would be flooded with shame. But that's just his particular, personality, his wiring, whatever is set up for him from a tremendous number of ingredients from his past. So just doesn't faze him the same.
And so I think that even taking that situation, me with this woman on the other side of the computer, you and your son, that when you both can experience the exact same thing, but the emotion is hitting you. Not only different emotions are hitting you, but they're hitting you at different levels. And so when Phyllis missed with you the other night, or she was trying to connect with you beforehand, and then later the next morning it came up as the pain, you were experiencing it at a higher level than what she was experiencing it at. And we just did an episode, I want to say it's episode 56, where we talked about the levels of intensity in emotion.
Right.
And so this is a great time for you if you can put the level on it when you're conveying to your partner. When you can see, okay, we're about to take this to the courtroom, which I hope everyone here knows what we mean by when we say that. We talk about going to the courtroom by saying, you said this. Well, no, you said this. And now you're at war with each other. Or you were supposed to do this when you are at odds over a logistic. That is taking it to the courtroom. And so when you can feel yourself going into the courtroom, that's when you slow down and ask yourself, well, what's happening for me?
Wow. Yep.
And you may be the one experiencing the guilt over the miss, and you may be only at 5 feet of guilt, but your partner may be at 50 feet of pain over that guilt.
Right.
Or over the miss.
Right.
And so if you can convey those things to each other, or you could be at 50 feet of guilt over something that your partner only feels 5 feet of pain about.
Yeah.
And so now you're at war over something, and the scales are so imbalanced that you're both going to walk away at odds.
Yeah.
Nobody wins in the courtroom.
Yeah.
You can walk away feeling like a winner. You got the last word in, so you felt like you won, but you're both going to feel like crap for the rest of the day.
Yeah. And especially when we realize that the emotions are happening to us. For Phyllis and me to be walking along, there's nothing you could do, even if you paid her money. She might lie just for the cash. I don't know. But there's nothing that she could do where she would feel pain or fear about stepping on a crack. It's just not in her universe. Doesn't exist, never has, never will. So, and she's not doing that on purpose. She didn't give herself a pep talk that morning and be like, don't feel fear. Don't feel fear about stepping on cracks. Don't feel pain stepping on cracks. And on the other side of it, Glenn didn't give himself a lecture to feel the fear and to feel the pain. That's just what happens. I think we shared on an episode recently about Phyllis's fear of mice. There's something about it. Just mice are way out there for her. Well, I just don't. You should. She killed a mouse yesterday. It was very impressive.
What?
Anyway.
I have not heard the story.
Sorry to confess your sins.
Well, we're going to have some horrible DMs about this.
If Glenn had pulled out his phone and taken a video, it would have gone viral, because I can't believe you didn't pull out your phone. I guess because you just don't ever think of that.
He only uses your phone to video things,
exactly,
so he can save space on his.
That's true. Yes. But do we tell the story now? Is everyone going to
tell the story? Go for it.
No. So we just were sitting on our back deck. We have a huge, beautiful back deck, and
now tell it accurately.
Now I'm gonna tell my version. We'll see if you change it by telling your version.
Okay.
And Glenn all of a sudden says, "Oh, there's a mouse on the driveway." I had a broom in my hand because I guess I was cleaning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it a brand new broom?
It was a brand new broom.
Brand new broom that you just literally got out of the
brand
package.
New broom, and I was sweeping off part of the deck. And he says, "Look, there's a mouse." And I look over, and it was a mouse. It was a little tiny black mouse. Don't, Tira, don't do that. Don't.
I'm saying there's a mouse. Says,
okay,
oh, look, there's a cute little mouse.
I'm sorry, but mice, just something in my brain snaps. And it wasn't a bigger gray mouse. It was a little tiny black mouse. So I didn't know there were different mouse. I grab my broom and I go after that mouse. And I beat the mouse to death with my broom, and my broom breaks into multiple. By the time I'm done, my brand new broom now is destroyed.
Wow!
I break the broom in the process, and Glenn is just sitting there on the deck, dying laughing. Cannot fathom.
Which I guess makes me culpable too.
Cannot fathom what I'm like. I'm like a crazy woman going after a little tiny black mouse outside. He has the right to live outside. I'm sure you're thinking that.
That is the rule in our house. My kids are not allowed to kill creatures outside.
I was freaking out. I have never seen a mouse outside. And so I was
There's
just
several
freaking
all
out.
over the world.
Absolutely. All I could envision was that mouse was going to end up inside in my bed some night, and I was going to wake up to a mouse eating me alive. Yes.
Get that.
How did we get on that?
Because your experience with that mouse was very different than
I lose
my
my mind.
experience.
I really lose my mind. I broke a broom over that mouse.
Yeah.
Well, I've been encouraging, if you are a follower of our podcast, you've heard that Phyllis has been processing the difficulty of processing anger in her body. And so I have suggested her like, let's go to a rage room together
Yeah,
and
you
beat some
have.
stuff up.
She did.
And she did. You broke a broom.
Over a mouse. Oh, I'm not sure that's what
Wow.
you had in mind to,
No, but you got the job done. You
to
know?
work through.
Yeah, you got it out of your body.
Yeah.
Wow. It was a
Yes.
crazy moment. And yeah, you should have gotten
Wow.
it on video.
Okay.
But
Yes. But when we start recognizing that the other person's, well, for ourselves as an individual, but that you get better and better at it, and you recognize the other person's experience really is. I've never known people just make up. But I don't even know if we're capable of that as humans. The other person really is experiencing what they're experiencing. And for us to, as we call it, the court case, for you to just hire an attorney and argue it through in front of a judge and jury and go, no, you are not allowed to experience what you experience. You're not allowed to feel what you feel. Okay, you'll never win relationally with that. You'll never even win in the court case because you can't prove that somebody shouldn't experience what they're experiencing. But even if they acquiesce, even if they finally just cave and give in to your superior argument or whatever, it doesn't change anything. They're still experiencing it. And that's the power of the ooh, just to be able to be audible with the person and go, oh, wow, okay, I hear you. That's very different than what I experienced there, but I hear you. That's what happens for you.
you know, I think bringing it all the way back around to what happened for us this week, and even for you saying that, Tira, I think is super helpful that if he expresses pain, like I think even when you initially expressed your pain to me, I think that it would have been so helpful if I had asked, so is it 43 feet of pain?
Yeah.
Because I think that you would have said, no, I don't think it was 43 feet of pain.
No.
There might have been some fear in that experience for you, probably more so than even pain, because of the fact that I wasn't home. You had fear that you wouldn't be able to finish the project you had a deadline on. But then I think my guilt, like, I don't know, probably in us humans, it never matches up evenly.
Right.
So then there is something even in that where I don't think my guilt matched what was happening for him. And then, you know, the next day when we revisited it by doing an issue specific wheel over it, I think that probably I am experiencing your pain at a really high level. And I think my reaction then is like, I repeated, I really missed it, feel guilt and shame about that. And then you're questioning, are you just saying that so that we'll be done with this? Or are you really feeling that? And so like even that becomes almost like a miss for us because, and I shared that I feel pain in you questioning my sincerity or my authenticity in it.
Yeah.
Except for you, it is a fear experience again, a fear that I'm just acquiescing, you know, because early in our married life, I do believe I acquiesced a lot just to stop the conflict. Like, you know, that was a mechanism I used, but it doesn't change that what you were experiencing was real for you and you needed to process it again, process it more. You needed to, because you were like, it was heavy on you. Like you started off the morning feeling it. So it wasn't that we just got through it super quick.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to think even from our listeners' perspectives, like what they're experiencing at home and the questions that they would even have about the situation. Because I don't think that this is, like you said earlier, an abnormal situation.
right.
And so essentially what it feels like or what it seems like, you weren't coming home, so you called to confirm. And then Glenn even said, no, you don't have to come home. You don't need to change your plans. But then the next morning, there was a lot of pain that you didn't come home. And so for our listeners, I think that there would be pain that there's no resolve. Like, should she have just come home the night before to help you avoid the pain? And so I'm just trying to think of what questions they would be encountering in their own homes as well. Of, is it better to just avoid the pain altogether and I'll just come home? Or is it okay to just process it the next day? And how long do you stay in that process? Because I don't want to do something the night before if I feel, which I know she wasn't getting in trouble. That is not at all. But that's the verbiage that we would be using if I'm just going to be in trouble the next day for doing it. And so what could have happened differently, or is how it played out completely great and a healthy place to be?
Well, I don't know how you change that part, because I mean the majority of it is just trauma response from past struggles, defeats, failures, whatever in our interaction, so that then I don't know. Well, I don't know how you change that instantly. I mean, theoretically, you can say, well, Glenn, you just have to believe that whatever she presents is what she really is experiencing. Well, we can't force beliefs. We can't make Glenn believe that. I mean, you can yell at me enough, and maybe finally I'll be like, okay, I believe, but I really don't. I just got tired of you yelling at me. And we faith-based people are horrible about that. We believe that we're going to force somebody to believe something, basically by putting some version of a thumb screw on them. We just keep tightening it down. Eventually their belief changes, but it really doesn't. They just got tired of the pain. So I don't know how you I don't think that you can change that instantly or even quickly, but you just keep walking together, and because that has shifted drastically for us over the years. That doesn't mean it's 100% yet, but it has changed drastically, I think.
Well, and as far as like the whole thing was one of those where Glenn was thinking I would come home, assuming, because it's like you're always here when I do this particular project, and you've always been here for this, like, so it was out of character. Like for him, he just thought, well, of course she'll be home. But there wasn't a clear communication, like even that morning or the day before, of like, hey, so do you think you could be home by 4 tomorrow or whatever? Like there wasn't a clear expectation communicated. And I had asked the day before, like kind of, we do a lot of, hey, what you got going on tomorrow? Let's look at our calendars. Like we do a whole lot of that because our life is not a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday life where you just know. It's like every day looks different in our world. So we talk a lot about our schedules, and he knows, like on Tuesdays this semester I go and spend time with our oldest daughter, Echo. So that's been consistent, but that doesn't mean even everybody remembers that. I know you're aware of that that's what I do on Tuesdays, but I don't expect everyone to just remember that just because I do that every Tuesday. But it's kind of like, I think looking back, to me, it goes back to, we kind of both missed each other in not being really clear of the expectation. Like, and then I also missed by not saying, hey, I'm going to stay through the evening because I'm going to go to our grandson's soccer game, And so there was like, I didn't communicate all the fine details either. And then he didn't communicate like the thought of, hey, you'll be home by 4, right?
And the fear. You didn't communicate the fear.
Yeah. Of just the different pieces of this project that he was doing, which could have been done. I could have done my part the day before to have helped all of that. So there were several misses, but when it comes down to, oh my word, it's 4:00 and you're not home, then the fear level probably went pretty high in that moment when you realized I wasn't going to be home at 4. Yeah. And so that's when it kind of started. And so, I think that there are times when like I expressed, wow, I really missed it with you. And I just did. Like there's no, in a sense, explanation, which is part of, I think we so easily can go to all the defense, all the proof why we were doing what we're doing. But we know that just takes you into the courtroom. It's like, okay, I can prove my actions were noble. And yet you don't ever win in that. You just don't. And so it was just being able to hear his pain in it. And I think you woke up with it again. So because we didn't talk about it over dinner, we just had fun and had a great dinner. And so then I think it was like, could we just do the wheel? Because he knew he was still just feeling it all. And so I think that in doing the wheel together, it kind of brought it all back up to the surface. And then it's like, okay, but I do think even in that, I love what you said, because I think if I had said, what is the level? It would have helped me to have known, is your pain at 43 feet? Is your hurt at 43 feet? Like, for me to have understood, because what would you have said if I'd thought to have asked that?
Well, I mean, it's really loneliness more than anything, just because this was all on me. And we've, for many years, have always done that project together. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know, 43 feet of loneliness or 35, way up there.
Okay. So see, it was pretty high.
Yeah.
And I don't think I understood that.
Yeah.
And so I totally missed that actually until this very moment. Because I don't think I understood how high, because that's a pretty high number.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the fear kicked in because once I realized that you weren't going to be there to help me wrap up the project, and so I was like, oh, crap, because I had sessions and I had to, factor all this in to try to make sure I got it done by the deadline.
Yeah. And so, I think that I missed it was probably at a much lower. Oh, I know it was. I sure wasn't matching his level of loneliness in it.
Right. And so in those moments, then you just make space. Just like the oohing them and expressing the guilt, but knowing that, yes, the day before you could have changed and come home, but you didn't. And next time, I love what you said earlier, that guilt then can bring joy because then you can know next time what to do. And that doesn't mean that you always have to rearrange every single thing for your partner. That's not the goal. But by the tuning in and hearing the level that your partner is functioning at, then can help you tune in to say, okay, is this something that I do need to tune into my partner deeper with? Or can I just help them process that emotion and we can continue on? So I think that that's just a really good scale, a way to determine your equation of what to do next. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm feeling right this minute, and I think I have shared this with Glenn, that sometimes I have fear that I'm going to miss it next time. That there's, a fear of, and it's interesting, even as I grow older, I don't think it's an age thing. I actually think part of it is that I have a whole lot going on in my life. I think when you live a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, everything looks the same. It's a little bit easier than when every single day of your life looks different.
Right.
And so I do have fear that I'm going to miss it again if we don't have like really better, clear communication of expectations.
Yeah.
Because I say yes to a lot of things. Like I would say I run around way more than you do. Like just activity wise,
Yeah.
like Glenn's pretty cute. How often he calls me, he goes, I know you told me, but where are you? you know?
Yeah.
And just like we live life kind of differently. He's much more at home, homebody, loves being at home. The office is on our property. So like even with clients, he can be on our property. He's not having to get in a car and drive somewhere. So I think for me, I'm always gone, or I'm gone a lot. And, I know he knows where I am, but he forgets. And I mean, that's great. He can call me. We have those conveniences now, but I think I feel fear that I'm going to miss again. And I hate missing.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to, I think, what you shared earlier. Like, I really hate missing.
I hate missing.
Yeah.
It is a pain experience. Yes.
Yeah. Because I feel like an idiot, which is what, I had shared with you, because I'm like, I'm super organized and I have this, planner. You and I have I forgot to bring you that too. I got to go home and get all this
Full Focus
stuff.
planner, Michael
Man,
Hyatt. We love him.
But Tira and I both have the same planner, and it's down to the detail of, crazy. It's super organized, and that's how I run my life. And so I just, I hate when I miss things.
Yeah, I get that. And so before we go into the core emotion wheel, just to like wrap up what we are sharing today, is that in relationship, whether it is your work relationship, like what I experienced this morning, a father-son relationship, or a marriage relationship, you are going to miss, and the other person is going to miss. because you are human. Thank the Lord. And so in those moments of missing, instead of going into the courtroom ready to defend your honor, defend your actions, or take your partner or the other person to court, stop and share that core emotion and ask what intensity you're experiencing it at. When someone is in pain, I would start there and find out, what level of pain are you at, or lonely, or fear? And then you can go from there and process the guilt with the miss and move forward. And then take the guilt and turn it into joy, knowing that next time you can learn from the experience. So I absolutely love that. And we close every episode by doing our core emotion wheel. This is our 4-minute tool that brings connection in a relationship. This is what Dr. and Glenn and Phyllis did that very next morning when Glenn was feeling disconnected, not only with Phyllis, but even within himself at the time. And they were able to sit and do the wheel and reconnect quickly. So you want to get started?
Yeah. You go first.
You go first.
Okay. Let's see. For me, felt some fear earlier doing the podcast we did with Kate, because it's a big deal, and I wanted to make sure that we're on point with that and just conveying, and a little fear too with just some messiness from some people that have heard some of our message and been bothered. A lot of pain in that. I just feel, and it's mostly just sadness. I'm like, oh, these poor people that are, just seems like, and I know that as we become more and more out there, there's going to be somebody that doesn't like us, like what we do, like our message. But, and I'm really thankful that it's not a hurt experience, because just a few years ago, this would have been devastating for me. And it's really just a sad experience. I do feel some loneliness in that. It's like, gracious alive, we are trying our hardest to help humanity, help people. And just to think, wow, it's tough to be misunderstood, which of course a lot of people experience. Tons of joy doing these podcasts. It's just crazy. It's so fun just getting to share with people, being on other people's podcasts. We're just meeting so many amazing, dynamic people. Just lots and lots of joy with that. Anger at being misunderstood. It's like, really? And the possibility of anger with me, with ourselves, like, did we miss that badly on that? Or did the other person just not get it? And of course, can't always answer that question, but I wish that humans were simpler, that we didn't have so many ingredients that come into play and so often a trauma response. But I know that happens so often. Shame when we do miss, whenever we realize, oh shoot, well, we conveyed that. And I'm always microanalyzing. Could we have presented that better? And sometimes the answer to that is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. That's about the best we can do. Yeah. And then guilt, when that happens, that if it's did we end up bringing harm in the process of trying to bring good? Wow. And I do feel fear about that at times, that that there's guilt in that. That maybe we could present it a little bit better, tweak it, shift it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's 8.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
So for me, I definitely feel guilt that I missed it with you the first time. And then again, I feel like I missed it with you the next day when you were processing still the pain and that. Feel just shame that I don't slow us down. I think that would have really helped to have asked, like, at what point, what level are you? That would have really clued me in better. I sure didn't realize that your loneliness was that high in that experience. I think I feel hurt. Well, I do. When you question my genuineness, or, or when you question whether I'm just acquiescing. So I felt hurt in that. Sad, definitely. We just have had some really negative comments on our Instagram, and I feel sadness in that. Yeah. Wow. It's like a heavy cloud affecting us. And lonely, at times, being in this, when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to criticism. Yeah. I think if we weren't doing any of this and just minding our own business and enjoying life, all would be fine, right?
Yeah.
So I feel lonely in that, just that part of it. I think, let's see, fear, I do feel fear that because social media is such a strong platform that people can, if they want to, set out to destroy you and destroy what you're doing and destroy your mission. So definitely feel some fear in that. Anger, I think I feel core level anger, just that in that, that people have that, like that's, I'm learning a lot, like even the word a troll. I didn't know there was a troll. I didn't even know that expression with social media.
Well,
Didn't even know that existed, that people set up troll accounts and just to go after you. And gosh, that feels really,
absolutely.
feel anger in that. Joy this time of year. Oh my, I love being outside. I love the sunshine. I love the warmth. I love being out with you. Last night was super fun, sitting on the deck and mice or no mice. It was super fun. And we started our fire in our fire pit, and it was just so fun. A lot of joy in that. So.
Cool. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for sharing. And if you find yourself stuck in that cycle of going to the courtroom, you have definitely heard Glenn and Phyllis's myths and their pain that they experienced this week. But what they avoided was the courtroom.
Yes.
Which is deeper pain and deeper damage. That then is what's created the cycle of what even happened this week, was the years and years of going to the courtroom. So if you are finding yourself constantly there, where you were just he said, she said, and fighting over the logistic, please get on our website and go to connectioncodes.co/podcast. There you can not only find our free core emotion wheel, which is what Glenn and Phyllis just did, but you can get a coupon code for 20% off of our foundations course, which is our guide to teach you how to give each other identity, how you lose identity, and how you can learn to process your emotions so you can live connected long term. And thank you again for coming and listening. Please continue to share our episodes with your friends. And we do all of this. We put ourselves out there and share because
we know that you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.